Welcome to EWA's FIN LYT podcast. EWA is a fee-only RIA based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We hope all listeners of this podcast will benefit as we deep dive into complex financial topics that we will make simplified for you. And we hope that this really serves as a catalyst so that you can make the best financial planning decisions for your family and also save time. Welcome, everyone, to this week's FIN LYT by EWA podcast. Today, we're talking about a very exciting topic, SEP IRA versus 401k if you're a business owner. Which one do you set up? But first...
I was going to say, I thought we were talking about... We're filming in March here. I thought we were talking about the NCAA tournament.
Today's March 14th, and Ben's been getting pretty... He's just letting us know he predicted the teams in the Super Bowl. I think he called a golf winner. He's been getting a little talkative recently. So we're going to make some predictions here. It's March 14th again, so the Players' Championship. I know everyone's thinking March Madness, but I'm really into golf right now. So Players' Championship's about to happen. Tiger Woods is out. He's not playing. But what are your guys' picks?
To win?
To win it all.
Oh, boy.
Easy pick is Scotty Scheffler, but that's not going to be my pick.
Easy.
I just want to shout him out for how well he's playing. I will select Rory McIlroy. I think he's going to win the Players. He's dealing with a bit of a left miss right now with his irons, but his driver is really, really on. And this is an awesome course, and he's won here before. So
you drive for show, you putt for dough. So I'm just saying.
I'm hoping he gets a win and gets some momentum before winning the Masters. I know that's something that he's been really working for a long time. So
all right, I'm calling he's not going to win this Players. He's not going to win the Masters. I'm getting real defensive here against you.
Do you have a prediction?
I do. Yeah, I'm predicting Joel Damon is going to win the Players. I'm just 100% speaking the heart.
Did you watch Full Swing the new one?
Full Swing season 2. He got my heart on season 1.
And he just talks about how bad he is. He's like, dude, you're never going to win.
Season 2, I'm just a fan. I'm a permanent fan. Right. And then I'm also a fan right now of Keegan Bradley because of Full Swing season 2 because he didn't get picked for the Ryder Cup. I think just JT played really well. I think they should have picked him for the Ryder Cup, and he handled it like a pro, So I'm a Keegan. Is Keegan even playing though?
Keegan and Joel Damon are playing.
Hold on, Joel Damon. Let's make this a little bit more realistic. Will he make the cut? Yes or no?
I'm picking him to
win the whole thing. Okay, all right.
With his bucket hat.
Yeah.
All right, Jamison, you've had plenty of time. I see you're doing your research there.
I don't know. That's just a total crapshoot. I'm gonna just I'll say. Let's see here. I don't know. I mean, anybody could win this. We'll say.
Got to pick.
It's JT. Is JT golfing?
JT is playing.
We'll take him. He's due.
Okay, and then March Madness predictions. First of all, we're in Pittsburgh. Is Pitt in or out? They're playing Wake Forest today. They must win. You think they're in?
I think they're getting in.
I think they're going to beat Wake Forest. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, James.
Yeah. Well, I would think 4 teams in the ACC will get in. They're number 4 right now.
Unfortunately, Clemson's going to get in, and Clemson is not in the top 4 in the ACC. Virginia may. I think Pitt's going to beat Wake Forest. I think they're going to lose their next game, and I think it's going to be a pretty heartbreaking
You don't think they're going
first
get in?
4 out situation for Pitt. The loss to Missouri early in the year, just aging like milk. They're literally the worst team in the SEC. We were at that game together.
Oof.
The only Pitt game I went to all year, and just a really bad loss, and I think it's going to come back to haunt them.
Okay, last prediction, then we'll get to business. Who is going to win it all this year in the NCAA tournament?
Hard to say. I haven't given it a ton of thought, but I would say of all the teams I watched this year, I think UConn's the best. So we'll go with them.
I'm gonna roll with Houston. And I don't know. I don't have that much college basketball knowledge, at all. Oof. But I like college basketball, but by no means an expert. So that's a total guess.
I was gonna say Houston, but I want to be my own. I would have my own pick. I was going to UConn's my second point, but I definitely can't agree with Ben after he's won the last 3 gentlemen bets we've had on sports. So, I don't know. I'm going to say
Purdue.
No. Purdue's an elite. They're not even going to make the Elite 8. They'll be out. Sweet 16, they'll be out.
You think?
I have a very strong gut feeling they will be. Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that.
A team's going to get hot, and they're going to light up them with 3s. And,
okay.
Yeah. We'll see. If you remember, they lost to a 16 seed last year, Ben. But when Virginia did that, they came back and they won it all.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was going to say. But you beat me to it. Okay.
I'm gonna pick UNC. I like their point guard. Their point guard's really good.
RJ
Speaking from the
Davis.
heart.
RJ
The heart.
Davis,
Just like
good
Joel
player.
Damon, all right, we'll see. All right, back to business. So SEP IRA versus 401k. So if I'm a business owner and you guys are my advisor, how are you helping me navigate, the SEP versus 401k decision? So let's start with the SEP. Give me the pros and cons. How does it work? When is this a no-brainer? And when is this something that when it kind of becomes a gray area?
Yeah, so a SEP IRA stands for Simplified Employee Pension. Purely profit-sharing contributions in nature. And one of the big pros for a SEP IRA is that it's extremely easy to set up and to maintain. You could do it at most any custodian, quite literally set up a SEP IRA in 5 minutes. As long as it's filed before you, as a business owner, file your tax returns, you can make contributions to it. Traditionally, any SEP IRA contribution has been of the pre-tax variety. So any contributions that you make to a SEP are 100% tax deduction the year in which you make the contributions. That has changed with the Secure Act. So there could be a Roth component to your SEP. Again, we're filming this in March of 2024. A lot of custodians are a little bit slow rolling this out. So
It's an option, but it's just not an option. Most custodians don't offer it yet.
It's legal now. Most custodians are either very slow to adopt this or not offering this yet, but it is technically legal starting in 2024. You can make contributions. Again, if you're under the age of 50, you can save up to the lesser of 25% of your business revenue, or $69,000 in 2024. So the lesser of those numbers can be saved into a SEP IRA every year.
So let's give some examples there.
Yeah.
So if your business is doing $300,000 of revenue, 25% of that, $75,000.
Correct.
So you can't put in 25% of the example. You're capped at $69,000.
That's right.
If you make $1 million, 25% will be $250,000. You can't put in $250,000. You can only put in $69,000. But on the flip side of that, if you're making $100,000, you can't put in $69,000 because it's the 25% would be $25,000. So just to make that really, really clear, $69,000 is the cap, but also you can't go above 25% of your business revenues.
That's right. Primarily, this would be for business owners that have very few, ideally zero employees, or people that are self-employed. The reason I say that is because if there are employees, contributions are mandatory and they have to be an equal percentage of what you as the business owner put in. So like you said, Matt, in that example, if you put in 20% of your revenue, you have to put in 20% for all of your employees. So the more employees you have, the more expensive this can be, and generally we wouldn't recommend that.
Well, let's run through some case analysis. Let's just say Ben is the business owner and he makes $200,000, and then let's say Jamison and I are your employees making $100,000. So if you decide to max it out and put 25% of your 200, that'd be $50,000. You'd also have to put in 25% of 100 for me, 25,000, and then also 25,000 for Jamison. So that'd be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
You'd basically be putting in 50 for yourself, 50 for us.
100,000.
Thank you. Sign me up for that, Ben. Very generous.
Well, back to my original point. This is ideally for if you have zero employees, if you're self-employed, maybe one employee, but again, this is really for the self-employed.
Or let's say you make $1 million and you have a couple people that just qualify making $10,000. So you can put in, for you to put in the $69,000, it would take 6.9% of your salary or of the earnings. And let's say James and I, in this example, are only making $10,000 because we're like part-time workers, but we still qualify because of the hours. You don't have to put $690 for us. And if there's 2 or 3 employees, that could become a no-brainer. If you have like a huge income and you have a couple employees that make little because they're part-time in that example, then that could become a way to do this again. Because the SEP IRA, unlike we're getting to a 401k, and Jamison will talk about that, you don't need a third-party administrator. It doesn't need to file like a 5500. It's black or white with how there's not these different tests you have to pass to do it. So it's very easy to administer. But it is very easy to determine if this is a good fit or not for you. And most of the times, if you're a business owner with a lot of employees, it's just not going to be the right fit. The 401k is the best option. But if you're a business owner with very little employees and your income's really high, it could be a no-brainer. Or if you have high turnover, because as you mentioned, I'm just reading the rules you have in the notes here. So you
can exclude part-time workers. You can exclude those that are under the age of 21. And then those who have not worked for the employer in at least 3 of the previous 5 years, you can also exclude as well. So if you have high turnover employees coming in and out, as long as they haven't worked at the employer for 3 of the last 5 years, you don't have to make that equal percentage contribution for the SEP as you made for yourself.
Yeah, so like if you have if your employees on average stay there 2 years, a SEP would be pretty cool because you never have to set up the SEP for your, assuming that you're trying to solve money for yourself and you're not generous to your employees. That would be the way to go, because then you know no one's there long enough to ever get the funding. So now tell me how. So if you're doing a pre-tax SEP IRA, forget the Roth SEP for an example. For a lot of high income earners, this gets in the way of a really one of the best strategies I think is out there, the backdoor Roth. So give us a high level, Ben, on why the SEP IRA gets in the way of a backdoor Roth.
Yeah, we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about why the advantages of the solo 401k, but the downside of the SEP IRA is that any money that sits in the SEP is subject to the pro rata rule. So if you wanted to do what's called a backdoor Roth IRA, if you're over the income limit to directly contribute to a Roth, you want to take advantage of that loophole in the tax code and do a backdoor Roth. Money that sits in a SEP IRA is technically considered for aggregation purposes. So if you do a backdoor Roth, that's going to count that big SEP IRA balance that you have as taxable. So it kind of defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do. Whereas money that sits in a solo 401k, it's not considered an IRA, so it's not considered for that aggregation purpose. So you can very cleanly do a backdoor Roth, get that money, right now it's $7,000 in 2024, into the traditional IRA, convert it to Roth the next day, make it basically tax-free, whereas in the SEP IRA, that you wouldn't be able to do it so cleanly.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's transition to the 401k. So Jamison, give us the breakdown. How did the 401k works? Pros and let's talk about some pros and cons compared to the SEP.
So same limit you can get if you're under 50, 69,000, but it's basically dollar for dollar for your business income, 1099 income. So if you made 69, we'll say if you made 100,000 in business revenue or 1099 income, with a SEP you'd be capped at $25,000, only 25%. With the 401k you can dollar for dollar, so you get the full 69.
Well, real quick, break that down for us, because there's different ways. So let's assume that you have the elective deferral, the profit share, and then which is capped at 25%, and then you're saying you could still get the 69 unlike the SEP. So how would there are basically 3 compartments? I think you're stating. How would we fill those 3 compartments to get to that 69? Yeah,
so it depends. There's some variables here. If this is your only income, and you're just 1099 or business owner, you could do 23,000 is your salary deferral, your 402G limit. That could be Roth or pre-tax. Most of the time we're going to recommend Roth. You could set up a profit share, safe harbor, so then the employer, the business is funding up to 25%, like you said, and then you could fill the rest with an after-tax contribution and then convert it to Roth. If you have a W-2 job and a 401k there, and you're already doing that 402G deferral, 23,000, you can't do that again. But if you have 100,000 of consulting income, you could still get that 66,000. You could do a profit share, but you could just do an after-tax contribution and convert it to Roth and fill it up.
So we could do 25,000, and then the rest of the 69, would that be 44,000 into the after-tax, and then convert it to Roth right away?
Yeah.
Awesome. So tons of more flexibility as far as like how easy it is to reach the maximum levels. Awesome. So going through some examples that Ben went through, that assuming Ben was the business owner of the 200, we're each making 100. Give us like a high level of how much more economical it will be for Ben to fund it, to max out for himself, and then also to give what he would need to give to us. So let's assume he's making 200,000 in his 401k.
Oh, the same scenario. Okay,
same
for the
scenario.
401k.
Yep.
So the 23,000 we could each defer. That would be out of our paycheck.
And so first of all, that's not costing Ben anything, because the 401k forces participation in some cases for employees. So the first 23,000, we're having to do out of our own paycheck. doesn't cost Ben anything. It's just money that he was already paying us instead of it's going to the 401k, but it's no new money to Ben's pocket.
Yeah. So Ben could do a safe harbor match. Then we put that in. He's going to, let's say, gives us 3%. So $3,000 each. He takes 3,000, that's 9,000. And then he could decide if he wanted to do a profit share for us as well. And that could be determined on a year-by-year basis, depending on how the business is doing. And he could, so if we're at 23, we're at 3, that's what, 26. So then that gives us 43 that he could do in profit share if he wanted to.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the profit share here is he could put in, for himself, he could structure 10% and then give us, there's a test. There's 3 different ways to pass the test, but you've passed a lot of the tests by doing the safe harbor, but he would still need to do some profit sharing for us. But the point is, in the first example, the SEP, if we're making 100 each, you'd have to put in 25 and 25. With this, we could probably get away where it only cost him like 10,000 each, and then still be able to maximize the thing for himself.
Yeah.
So in that example, instead of it costing him 50 in employer contribution, it only cost him 20.
Yeah. And I just want to clarify, we're talking about a standard 401k plan here. A solo 401k plan is just for sole props, only if you have one employee. We're more so talking about, in that example, we're maybe an S corp and I'm the business owner, you're the employees. I just want to delineate solo 401k versus
yeah, and a solo
401k.
401k is great because if you're the only, a solo 401k would just be solo, just you. You're you're a doctor, consulting income. There's no contributions to anyone else, and you can structure it however you want. In those 3 compartments, Roth versus pre-tax to the 402g, a profit sharing contribution, then after tax, and you can navigate tax brackets properly. If you want a big tax write-off that year, big income, great. No after tax, go heavier on the profit sharing, and vice versa. If you're in a lower tax year, you can do more after tax, convert it to Roth. So
yeah, and I think the one delineation that's important with a SEP, there's no like filing every year. It's just like an IRA that you were to go open with a custodian. Solo 401k, you have to have some plan documents in place to set it up, and then if it's under $250,000 in plan assets, there's no annual reporting. But once you hit $250,000, you have to file what's called a Form 5500 with the IRS every year, and so that there is a little bit more accounting and paperwork that needs done, filing versus a SEP IRA.
Yeah, and then you need a third-party administrator to make
Yeah.
sure that 5,500, or you could do that yourself, but also it'd be nice to have that delegated if you're busy. Okay, so let's rapid fire here some pros and cons. So how much income do you need to max out a SEP IRA versus how much income do you need to do a solo 401k, assuming that you're doing the elective deferral plus the profit sharing contribution?
Yeah, so the 2023, you needed 330,000 of income to fully max out a SEP, but only about 217,000 of income to max out a solo 401k, just because you're limited to that 25% business revenue.
And you're talking, so again, just to delineate, there's 25% of business revenue, 20% of sole prop. So 2024, just an example, you need 276 revenues to reach the 69,000 versus the 401k, it's much lower. So the 401k, basically, if you have a lower income, it gives you more flexibility if you have the cash flow to max
That's
out.
right.
So that's awesome. Okay, so so let's just go rapid fire. So 401k, Jamison, can you take if you needed the money for an emergency, but you were going to put it back, how would we do that? Can you take a loan from it? Can you take a withdrawal from it and then put it back? How does that work?
If the plan's set up to allow loans, you could take a loan.
And so pros of that, you avoid taxes, you avoid the 10% penalty if you're before 59.5. The con is, you have that money that you have loaned out doesn't participate in market returns. So if the market is 10%, you just miss 10. Plus, there's going to be an interest rate that typically follows the Fed rate, plus something, depending on the custodian. So, okay, so it's an expensive option, but at least if it's short term, you can take it out, put it back in, and avoid those penalties. SEP IRA, Ben, can you take a loan?
No loan provisions.
No loan provision. So if we needed the money, we'd have one option. You could do a 60-day rollover, essentially. You could take the money out of the SEP, 60 days, do whatever you want, but you need to get it back into a different SEP within 60 days. If you do that, there's no... So you could basically do now that money's out of the market, but there's no interest on that, but you have to do that in 60 days, and you can only do that once every 365 days. So if you're thinking about doing this, you probably don't have a good financial plan in place, and you probably don't have good cash reserves or emergencies in place if that's your resort that you're truly falling into. Okay, so we already talked about the backdoor Roth. Any other considerations that you guys would put on the table here for someone considering the SEP versus the 401k?
Yeah, I would say if you're older, catch-up contributions are allowed in the solo 401k, so you can get an additional $7,500 in 2024. If you're over the age of 50 into a solo 401k, whereas a SEP IRA, you're still limited to that $69,000. There's no catch-up contributions if you're above 50.
So if you're over 50, $76,500 401k, you're still stuck at $69,000. The SEP IRA, awesome. Jameson, how about you? Any last considerations? What about like someone only making let's say a doctor's making $500,000 at their day job as a W-2, and then they start doing like legal consulting and they're only making $20,000. How would you advise them how would you advise that person to do a SEP versus 401k? Because when do we determine it's worth it to go the 401k route with that extra work versus just doing the easy?
Yeah, it really just depends on, to me, how much they're saving. So if they're able to save the full $20,000, then 401k would be a no-brainer and it's worth it.
Yeah, and if that's gonna be consistent in the future every year, if it's just a one-time thing, then not worth it. But
yeah, and I would say too, this is we didn't discuss this, but I would advise there's a lot of advisors that recommend simple IRAs in all of these situations. Most times those just don't make a ton of sense for a lot of reasons, but if usually a 401k or a SEP can be much more beneficial than a simple IRA.
Well, thanks for joining, everybody. Look forward to catching you next week. Thanks for tuning in to our podcast. Hopefully you found this helpful. Really hope this is as beneficial and impactful to as many people across the nation as possible. So hit the follow button. Make sure to rate the podcast, and please share with any friends or family members that would also find this beneficial. Thank you very much.